Welcome back, everybody. It's time for another installment of the Bengal Brothers podcast. I'm here with my brothers, Bengal Bob, Coach Ray. What's up, guys?
Hey.
Yes, sir. Who day, brothers?
Draft's officially over, and we wanted to get together and chat with everybody and, see where we stand going into the season, into camp, and, talk about some of these picks, not some of them, all of them, and, get our thoughts on them and, see what other people's thoughts are out there as well,
Yeah, I think it was a really good draft. We got some good talent in the building.
Yeah, honestly,
I am pumped up, dude. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I am pumped up, man.
Yeah, me too.
Between the free agency and the draft, dude, Cincinnati fucking killed it this year.
Yeah, we 100%. I am over the moon with how well this draft went. To get 5 trench players and 10 picks, I mean, that was everything we wanted. I mean, literally,
we got some good value too. I mean, we got some real good value in some spots I didn't expect to get.
100%. And before we start diving into the players, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch right now. If you're watching this after we've recorded live or while you're watching this now, make sure to shoot over to YouTube if you're not watching on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube page. And we're just trying to grow the community, right? And be a bigger part of the Bengals community and interact with as many Bengals fans as possible.
Yeah, let's grow together.
All righty. So we're going to go ahead and get running on it. And we're going to pretty much we're going to just go through all the picks. We'll start in round 1. We'll go through them all. And we'll get some information out there on these guys. So
get after it, Reg.
With the round 1 pick 18, the Bengals drafted Amarius Mims. He's offensive tackle from Georgia. And I'll tell you, we all talked about this guy briefly here and there. He's 6'8", 340 pounds. I mean, he comes in and he's one of the biggest tackles in the league. And the Bengals already have the 2 biggest tackles already. So Mims, in my opinion, a lot of people were hit or miss. So, I did a big deep dive into him. And, so here's some of my thoughts. First thing I like to do is put on the tape of a guy and just watch him and, write down my thoughts. Before I do anything else, look up his background, look at everything. I want to try to get a natural view of this guy as a player, as if I was watching him on game day. And certain things jumped off to me. He plays with size. He's already a big man, but he literally, he fills the gap like other players, even 6'5", 6'6" players can't. And that allows him to give help to his teammates, whether it's the guard or it's the tight end, without really losing his gap assignment. He can stay in his place while still providing a helping hand to teammates. I mean, that's how big of a man this is. He's 6'8", 340, and he's mostly muscle. I mean, Zach Taylor made the comment that this guy could legitimately put on weight if they needed him to. Another thing that jumped off the tape at me was he has quick feet for such a big man. I mean, he gets into his set quickly. He gets to the spot quickly. And his hand placement for, really the lack of experience, which is what a lot of people talk about, which we're going to get to that, is pretty good. He has solid hands placement. His first jab or attack at the defensive end or whoever that's coming across his face is pretty solid. And it also jumped off to me that he's good with the crossers and the stunts. You hear the profile on this guy and you're like, well, he's big, but he's very underdeveloped and he's raw and he's inexperienced. That's not what he shows on tape. I mean, it is not what he shows on tape. He has quick feet. He gets to the spot. His hand placement is solid. He picks up the crosses really well. And he plays very physical. I mean, he pushes guys down a lot. If it's in the run game and they're going on the line, he's going to push you down. If he's out in space and he's tracking a linebacker, he pushes them down more often than not. I mean, he finishes blocks, and I don't mean in like a pancake way. I mean, if you leave your feet, if you're going under, he's gonna put you on your ass. I mean, he's gonna put you down.
Yeah, he's a real, isn't he?
He is. And some of the negatives about him, obviously the lack of experience. He only really has 8 starts under his belt. He played in 29 games, but that included a semifinal game and a national championship game. And but he's actually a little worse against slow rushers. I noticed that if a guy doesn't have get off, or a guy is doing a delay rush because he's waiting to see if a screen or a back's going to leak, like the end has the assignment, he doesn't know what to do. He ends up catching the guy. He gets to the spot really quick, and then they're kind of delay rushing, or it's a delayed blitz or whatever his assignment is. And instead of him, going out and widening the pocket for the quarterback and, sticking the guy, he kind of catches them. He waits for them to come to him. Like which leads me to another point, is he's kind of a watcher on blown plays. I've noticed that. If a play's blown up, he turned around, he's watching things happen. So some of the clear lack of game experience at high levels definitely shows in certain aspects like that. That's something you see at the college level. A lot of guys, if the play's kind of blown up, they're not sure what to do. So that's a very inexperienced thing. But the beauty is his biggest negatives, are things that are very fixable. I mean, with just, a season or two under his belt, things like that aren't going to happen. And in the NFL, you're not dealing with slow rushers. It might be a delayed blitz, and he's going to have to figure out timing, and they're going to coach out of him how to go out and get the guy. But I mean, the number one thing that jumps off to me, aside from his, overall size and his ability to fill the gap, he makes it looks very easy because of that. He wins a lot. I mean, he wins his rep a lot. If it's a one-on-one pass set, he wins. He does it, and he's won against quality guys all throughout the college playoffs and in the national championship. And I've been blown away, really. I mean, I've been blown away. I think his biggest needs is he needed a team that had a starter in place, so he has some time to develop. And he needed a team that had guys his size so he can learn how to play the position at that size. And he needs to be in an offense that's very pass-oriented so that he can take advantage of his natural ability as a pass setter. And guess what, boys? The Bengals check all 3 of those boxes. They do. We don't need him to play right away. He has 2 guys that are his size for him to play left and right tackle and to teach him how to play the position at that size. And he's going to a team that's very pass oriented. So overall, I think this could end up being the biggest steal of the draft. And his size and athleticism, not only does he bring the floor up of our room, now our room has a guy. This guy could be a Pro Bowl or all pro player. So, I mean, he really has that size and athleticism. And I don't know what you guys think, but I really love this pick.
No, I'm with you, man.
I think you straight up love the fucking trench players, don't you?
I do.
Man, you're so passionate about the trench players. I love it. Go ahead, Bert.
Wins championships.
No, I was gonna agree with you, man. I mean, watching the tape on him, I mean, that's exactly what I seen. And the beauty about it is, we kind of seen it. We kind of figured if Byron Murphy was going to be gone, it was going to be Amarius, and sure enough, man, he's the guy. And it's good to see Orlando Brown kind of welcoming him into Cincinnati, and giving him the tour and stuff like that. So,
man, he's a class act.
That's 2 walking bears right there, dude. You know what I mean? Like, that is 2 giant ass men right there. That I would not like to line up across from.
No, something I seen the other day that came out that, man, he's only got 11% body fat, dude. For a motherfucker that big, only 11% body fat, really?
Yeah.
Man,
overall,
he shows it too, man. I mean, athletic for
overall,
that size, dude.
He was Zach saying he could put on weight. They're obviously not going to have him put on weight. But, I think one of the things about him has been injury issue. that people think about. I did some deep dive into that. You know, he had tightrope surgery on his ankle, and Tua had that surgery in college and played 28 days later in the national championship. So to say that there's something that could be lingering with that all this time later is just crazy, because, I mean, it's a very easily recoverable surgery. It's like 100% rate. I mean, so overall, I love this pick. So
yeah, dude, 100%, man. I mean,
a lot of people were unhappy about it, but you know, I mean, when push comes to shove, if you can't protect your quarterback, then you ain't gonna win a lot of games. So
yeah,
you're not gonna win championships.
And this draft broke that narrative. It really did. And speaking of trench players, you know, round 2, Chris, go ahead, Ray.
Pick number 49, Chris Jenkins, man. Obviously, I'm a Michigan fan, so I didn't have to go look at a bunch of tape. I've been watching the tape, you know, in a sense. And I mean, shit, dude. I mean, talk about a beast of a man. I mean, 6'3" and 305, dude. He's played linebacker before in high school. I mean, he's been shuffled around throughout defenses. He's played defensive end. He's played defensive tackle, you know. And what's crazy is when I actually like looked at his history, because I didn't really know, you know, him, you know, his dad, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, was a 2-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowl, and his draft was round 2. And that's the same year that our boy Chris was born, which was 2001.
Crazy.
So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I mean, his dad had a pretty decent career. I mean, he ended up with like 220 in solo tackles and 24 sacks over the span of like 10 years. His first 7, I think, was with Carolina, and the last 3 with the Jets. But I mean, looking at Chris's senior year there in Michigan, I mean, 113 tackles, 8 of those being for a loss, ended with 5.5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, 1 INT. Dude, the guy's an animal, man. I mean, he's got a great head on his shoulders, and he's super coachable. And I mean, if we were going to lose Trey after this season, I mean, that would be a solid replacement. You know, my fear at this point is if Chris comes into training camp and does what Chris does and what he's done, I mean, dude, he's liable to take Sam Hubbard's position from him. Because again, the guy's been shuffled up and down the line before. I know he's, you know, again, I know he plays defensive tackle, but again, the guy is super quick, you know, has no problem rushing from the edge either. So, I mean, it's a great fit, dude. It was a great pick, you know.
Right. I mean, so something that he's going to run into, though. He's kind of got shorter arms, and this is the NFL. You know, maybe taking Sam Hubbard's job is a little bit too big of a jump right now.
Well, I'm not saying he's just going to come right out the gate. I'm just saying, man, he's gonna show up and show off. You know.
Well, I mean, he's
that's for sure.
Super strong. He's one of the strongest guys in the draft. You know, but you know,
I think
they worry about stuff like short arms and, you know, slow get off and all that. Like that all come into play. You'll definitely see his weaknesses in training camp when it comes to going up against pros.
Yeah, I mean, as a defensive tackle, though, man, I mean, you don't necessarily need the long arms, because you're, as an offensive lineman, you're not so much pillar blocking from those positions. More so as an edge, a tackle. You know, the defensive end likes to rush wide. You need long arms to get a hand on them. You know, coming from the interior part of the defense, I mean, Chris can literally bull rush the same way we've seen DJ Reader bull rush, you know, the same way we see BJ Hill bull rush, you know.
Well, one thing I noticed about Jenkins is he does have a quick first step to where he can cross the guard's face pretty quick. You know, I mean, he's got a lot of talent and a lot of potential. I mean, you know.
I mean, 22 years old, you know.
Oh, yeah. One of the things, honestly, that jumped out at me is with really every guy that the Bengals drafted, but especially Chris and McKinley Jackson, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. Both of them probably have 2 of the best get-offs of anybody in this draft. Both of them come off the ball, and they're explosive. And I kind of found it weird, you know, because I watched Chris's tape, a little more Chris's tape after I watched McKinley. And they're both very one gap players. And I mean that as like pass rushers. Like both of them they don't have huge repertoires. They come off the ball, they play their gap physical and strong. And yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to bring the floor of the D-line room up, and we're going to see the work they're going to get in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Much needed. Much needed help in the middle. What's up, T-Mac?
Who day, brother?
That's my guy right there. Big Bengals fan.
Yeah. What else you think, Ray?
Dude, I mean, I can literally go on and on, but I'm not gonna, because again, a lot of it's Michigan talk and it's not so much Bengal talk. But again, what the kid brings.
So let me ask you this:
wait, go ahead, brother.
Let me ask you this: with all your Michigan watching, on Saturdays, when you look back the past couple of years when you've seen this guy play, did you, what would cross your mind watching him? Like, hey, I'd like to have him on the Bengals squad, or
as a comparison?
Because you're the only Michigan fucking fan here, so other than did recently watch a tape of the guy, I've never seen him play really. You know what I mean?
I mean, just it's really situational football with him, man. Like how we've seen Logan and Jermaine and Vaughn and Bates. I mean, all these guys in big moments step up and make plays. Chris Jenkins, without a doubt, dude, is a big moment. Those are the moments he wants to be in. When that offense is trying to go for that 4th and 1, like there's where Chris literally, like, I mean, the kid is an all-star. Like he will blow that shit up every single time, and that's repeatedly, I've seen that time and time again over the last 2 seasons in Michigan. I mean, just situational, knowing it, this is it. I got to make a play. And makes a play.
Robert came in on Facebook and said it wouldn't be the first time that someone was way too underrated. And yeah, I mean that's something that jumps out to me, especially with a lot of these defensive tackles. Like, they're such hard-nosed guys. The position itself inherently is selfless. You got to think, how often do you hear people bring up the nose tackle? I mean, really, or a 3 technique. Aside from guys like Aaron Donald and even DJ Reader, who we always feel DJ Reader's been criminally underrated. You don't get to hear about these guys very often. And a lot of times these guys have some of the longest careers in the league, even though they're big humans, because the effort and grind they put in, it's very selfless,
Yeah.
Well, Bob, what do you think, man? You want to take us into Jermaine Burton, 3rd round pick?
Yeah. Some people may think he's a bit of a controversial pick, due to the way this team's drafted since Zach Taylor's been there. I mean, everybody's seen, anybody who's seen the draft and seen the excitement in Zach Taylor, he looked like he was the most excited to draft this guy. There is an issue with him off the field, punched a fan or whatever. I'm not sure of that whole story. He should have been drafted in the 1st round, that type of potential. He may not have like the yard and catches that are like super, like let's say Marvin Harrison Jr. He may not have that, but his tape's just awesome. Didn't drop a ball last year. He's got great size. He's got great speed. He can battle with the physical corners, go up and get those 50-50 balls. I like this pick. I like this pick a lot. And, I kind of think he could be a dark horse rookie of the year candidate. If he starts to see the field early in the season, that's a big possibility that, we got the steal of the draft. I kind of already think he's a steal of the draft because a lot of teams passed. Obviously, they don't want no issues with off the field shit. But this culture is good enough, I think, to where a player can come in there, like we were talking, Reg, that may have some off the field issues that this locker room will wash them out pretty quick, probably. So you're either going to, show up, suit up and be a pro or you're not. But if he shows up and acts like a pro and, keeps his head down, I'm telling you, he is a nice weapon. I'm sad to see Tyler Boyd, move on, but this kid can come right in and be a day one starter. I mean, he's got that type of potential. You know, he's around 6 foot, just under 200 pounds. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably more excited about this pick than any pick that we've, drafted in the draft. Just because, if you can protect your quarterback and you have weapons like that, you're going to win a lot of games,
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I mean, watching the tape on the kid, I mean, he's hard to cover, dude. I mean, he is tough to cover. I mean, obviously, when you watch someone's highlights, you're only going to see their moments in a sense. But when you look at like actual game footage of the kid, I mean, he is tough to cover, man. Like
right.
It comes back to the attitude and how he's going to fit in our culture, as a whole, right now. And, but he's definitely got a shot, man. That's for sure. I mean,
one of the knocks on him
competition.
Right.
I think Ray was kind of breaking up there a little bit.
I think one of the knocks is that oh shit, did you see that screenshot? Anyways, one of the knocks is, you haven't seen him run a lot of the routes in the route tree, on all 3 levels. But I feel like, he's got strong hands. He's got the speed. He can battle the physical corners. He has everything, all the physical traits to, I think, be a damn good wide receiver in this league. I mean, I'm telling you, I think we're going to look back a few years from now like, holy shit, did we really draft this dude in the 3rd round? You know what I mean? Like, you got to be kidding me.
No, I kind of feel the same way, man. I think, and he plays with fire. And like you said, I mean, you got to think our locker room, the character of the locker room of the Bengals, toxic personalities don't exist. They don't last very long. It's sort of lighthearted in the locker room, but everybody's on their grind. And dude, I think you take the top 2 receivers off the board. There's not a receiver in this draft that are as good or has the upside that Jermaine Burton does. And he's experienced.
Yeah, he's a great kid, man.
Matt came through, said, "You fellas think Burrow will get back into the groove right away?" This is the type of pick that just gives him more depth. Right,
a security blanket to replace Tyler Boyd. Someone in the slot. Who,
that's what I was going to say.
I got Gesicki for that too. But one thing about Burton, and this says a lot because the SEC by a lot of people is regarded as the best conference in college football. He led all SEC wide receivers in yards and catches over 20 yards a catch. Like,
I'm
telling you, he's got big play and explosiveness written all over
that locker room right now. I mean, look who's going to fill that spot. Trent Irwin, shit.
We'll always need Goldilocks.
Charlie Jones and Andre
Jones and Andre Yushavov. I mean, when you look at the possible candidates in the slot position, I mean, he's got the capability to come in and take that from, I think, any one of those guys. Because again, we haven't seen a lot from Charlie Jones. So. Yeah.
Well, here's the difference.
Where's the aliens?
The difference in Jermaine Burton and guys like Andre Yoshavas and Charlie Jones is, Jermaine comes from Alabama. He's played big time ball. I'm not saying that Andre didn't. He's an Ivy League guy, and Charlie Jones. I'm drawing a blank. Charlie was at like a JUCO and then went to a D1 school. Maybe it was like not Penn State. Man, I'm not sure, but Jermaine brings a certain aspect of already being in a pro-like environment, even though he has had some issues. So he's going to be able to come in and he's going to play with a little bit of fire to feel like, I want to be on the field. That's how guys like him are. They want to be on the field,
Yep.
Right. And if everybody remembers, Joe Mixon punched that chick in the face and, he turned it all around in Cincinnati. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I mean, I know it's not
Boy,
like
Mom said.
I remember under the Marvin Lewis era,
which is def needed. Can't all be on Chase and Higgins. That's that's the idea. That's the reason you tag T and bring him back is you can't double cover everybody. But to your point, what you just said, Bobby, was what you just said is, I mean, to me, it's not even comparable. Marvin's days. I mean, Marvin brought the Bengals out of the medieval times, but in terms of
tried to rehabilitate
character, how many captains and everything. I mean, it's
right.
It's a completely different
It's
time
a lot
and
different.
age.
That's why, not only did the Jermaine Burton pick,
it was Purdue.
It
was Purdue.
Surprised me was the very next third round pick that you're going to get into, Reg. He kind of had some off the field issue too.
Yeah, McKinley Jackson. Man, like I said, I love trench players. And I love that we went 5 and 10 picks, and McKinley is just like we talked about with Chris Jones. This guy might have had the best get off of any player in the draft. He's 6'2", 326. Him and I are really similar in size. I think he's got about 15 pounds on me. And obviously he's in the best shape of his life. But his get off the ball is so impressive. Hey, you watch every D tackle in this class and you watch McKinley, and you literally there's a difference watching him come off the ball. And he rarely ends up on the ground. I mean, this guy's balance and hip strength, his ability to, even if he's being washed, he's a stout. He plays bigger than 6'2", 320, to be honest. But it's mainly because his shortness gives him some leverage that I think a lot of taller players don't necessarily have. He's a very patient pass rusher, which this guy, make no mistake, he's a much better pass rusher than he is a run stopper, which I know a lot of Bengals fans probably don't want to hear because of our division. But he's a great slide and slap. I mean, his slide and slap, and especially if he's focused on one gap, is really good. But he's a third-round pick. And why is that? Well, it's because he doesn't have the overall size to be a multi-gap eater. He's not a great gap eater in the run game.
He's a true nose tackle.
Well, honestly, I'm not even sure if he's a true nose tackle. I think he probably would end up better in an even front as a 3 technique. If this guy has a designated gap and it's a pass rush situation, he's a handful for guards and centers. He's a handful. If he's got to play, if he's got a multi-assignment where he's depending on how things are going to go, and he has to have, he's a two-gap player, he's better in the pass game than he is in the run game, but he's noticeably worse than he is when he's just a one-gap player. And, it's not a lack of experience. This guy was all SEC freshman. He played in 40 games, 40. And he had 23 starts. He was a 2-time captain. This guy was the perfect character for this locker room to come in and just with him and Chris come in and they bring the floor up big time.
Definitely.
Of our D-line.
Well, and, he went from in 2021, the 2-game suspension to being a team captain by 2023. That says a lot.
Yep.
And the tape that I watched on him, he is super explosive. You can tell he's got really, a lot of power in his hip movement, like a lot.
Yeah, some of the tape I've seen on him, man. I mean, he, for again not being the biggest guy, he tries to get skinny and tries to hit the A's as hard as he can, which is what you want. You want to hit that A going downhill, and the tape that I've seen, I mean, that's exactly what he does.
Yeah. Well, Mom said he was known for blowing up the A gap. Really, that's it. We shall see. Yeah, and then that.
Well,
plays right
because one of the biggest knocks on him.
Player.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest knocks on him is he don't have a secondary go-to move. Like he's like a one-trick pony.
What it is,
but the NFL will either fix that for you, or you won't last long in the league.
Go ahead, Ray.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say. I mean, they're exactly right. I mean, all the tape that I've seen, I mean, he's explosive through the A gap. The few times he tries to hit the B, he really gets pushed. He gets pushed around. He'll get moved all the way down the damn line. So he's not going to be that off tackle type run stopper I think we're looking for. He's going to be more.
He's our future nose tackle.
He's going to be looking right down the pinch. So, that whole tush push like Philly likes to try to do, like that's a great person to put there to try to stop that play, Well,
I know what it is. Lou looks at him, right? And here's a guy who has unbelievable get off, just like Chris Jenkins. He almost can play any technique on the line if you have a designated pass rush situation. I see him coming on the field when it's a passing down. If Lou's going to throw out a 3 front and Sheldon Rankins is gassed and needs a break, or BJ Hill, one of those guys, is banged up, guys like Chris and McKinley, they're going to be fighting to be that third or fourth guy up in the 7-man rotation, where he can come in. You could put him anywhere from a 0 to a 3 on either side, and he can rush the pass.
He can play the nose tackle with pass rush ability. Which
exactly. And he'll probably usually he's going to have to learn to play 3 and like 3-eye. He has to, because Lou's tackles all do. So that's, if you watch the camp battle, for those out there watching right now, if you tune in and follow a lot of the camp battles, those are going to be the type of little things that Lou and those guys are looking for to see who makes this team and the game day roster.
Shit's going to get hammered out.
Right.
Shit's going to get hammered out, that's for
because
sure.
One of McKinley's biggest issues I saw on tape, to me, was that if his pass rush gets stalled, he's almost useless, because he's
he needs a secondary move.
Right. So can he develop something to counter, and can he learn to play from 0 to 3-eye, or from both A gaps? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's keep it moving.
It'll be a challenge for sure.
We're on to round 4, right?
Round 4, man. Right. Eric All, man. I mean, you hear stories about adversity and players that have really tough lives and stuff like that, and have been through a lot. I mean, Eric All is definitely one of those dudes. I mean, so obviously I know him through Michigan, not so much Iowa. I had to watch his tape from last season leading up to the point before he tore his ACL, right? So leading up to that point, in 7 games, Eric put up 21 receptions, 299 yards, averaging 14.2, with 3 touchdowns, the longest one being a 34-yarder. And then obviously he had the ACL tear. But something about this kid, obviously, he's an Ohio boy. He was born in Hamilton. Grew up, went to high school in Fairfield. But at the age of 5, I don't know if you guys knew this or not. So I remember watching this game and actually watching CBS make the story behind, and told everything, and actually interviewed the people that was involved. But basically, when he was 5, his home family in Richmond, Indiana, caught on fire. He was trapped on the 2nd floor. Firefighter went in, brought Eric out, obviously a lifeless body. And then this EMT guy, Sean, basically saved his life, brought him back to life. And then it's really been one thing after another for Eric, going through high school and to college. He had back surgery in 2022. But the effort that Eric is going to bring, I hope this kid stays healthy, because he might be Cincinnati's best tight end we've ever had, dude. Like we've ever had. And I know we've had some pretty good tight ends. You know what I mean? We've had some pretty good tight ends. But he has the capability, man, and the attitude, the effort. Like he's Ohio boy. He's going to fit right into the locker room. What do you guys think, man? Again, a great kid.
Do you
man.
think that because he played for Michigan, or do you think that honestly?
No, I think that honestly.
You think that because he played for Michigan?
So again, he's 6'5" and 250, dude, and he is super light-footed, right? So, I think he ran like a 4.8 or a 4.9. Don't quote me on that. I have to look that up, but I want to say it was somewhere around there. And again, dude, like he's tough to cover, and he gets physical with corners and safeties and linebackers. And again, it's the healthy question, with him having back surgery in 2022, him tearing his ACL, but the kid's got all the heart that you could ever ask from a player,
Yeah.
Attitude is perfect. Effort,
Well, like Reggie said, that's tight end's going to be another big battle at camp. It's going to be a battle because you're all not going to dress. You know what I mean?
And I was going to say Iowa's known for producing tight ends, and I think that's.
But he don't really count.
Well, I was going to say is one of the things that I think a lot of scouts looking at him, Iowa's offense has not been good the past 2 years, and so I think his numbers really aren't indicative, because he wasn't exactly playing in a high explosive offense. But Iowa is known for developing solid tight ends because they make them play in line, they make them play in the slot, they make them, they make them learn a little bit of everything. And so typically their tight ends are guys that are well balanced. And I think he's kind of right there in the mix, of being a well balanced guy.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the tape on Eric and you look at his size again, 6'5" and 250, you look how big Drew Sample is, right? And again, it's not a shot at Drew. I mean, Drew last season showed me more like athleticism than I've seen any previous year from Drew on some of those catches he was making last year. But that's the difference, I think, between him and Drew is he's a lot more athletic, from what I've seen. And dude, I mean, I think that's another great pickup by Cincinnati. And it's going to be a tough locker room, like you guys just said. Not just for the slots, but for the tight ends also.
Listen to Mr. Roma in there. I think that the real adversity breeds strength and wisdom, makes you fight a little harder. Yeah. And that is true. That is true.
Yeah, he's definitely been through it, man. So it's.
I mean, what I like best about him is he's a real physical guy. He's one of them physical tight ends. I don't know he'll necessarily be near the scale of a Travis Kelce, but he's a pretty talented kid.
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to come back from a back surgery, and still be able to put up, basically 300 yards and 21 catches. I mean, for a tight end, I mean, given he's only got 3 touchdowns on the board, but
as Bengals fans, we definitely.
I'm still fucking jacked about Gesicki, so the tight end position. I wouldn't have given a shit if we drafted Brock Bowers. I'm still all about Gesicki's gonna.
As Bengals fans, we know all about tight ends with back problems because we dealt with it with Tyler Eifert. His seems to be a different category because Tyler had
Jermaine Gresham had a few issues.
Yeah. Bobby, why don't you take us into Josh Newton before we hit the midway point? And do a little ad.
I mean, he's a kid out of TCU. He's got a lot of potential. He's quick when it comes to reading the offense. He's physical. He can play a little bit of man. He kind of gets burnt on the deep routes on the outside. That's his biggest issue. And I don't know exactly if Dax Hill is going to work out good at corner or what that case is. I mean, the kid has potential. I'll give him that. He's first team all Big 12. I don't know enough about him to really say he's going to be good in the NFL or he's just going to be a body at camp and end up,
right,
getting picked up on the waiver wire. But, in his tape, he looks good. I mean, there's nothing that really just stands out about him,
Right. Well, and as you get to some of these later picks, I mean, that's sometimes it doesn't. It's their pick isn't as.
His family's pissed right now. I mean, like, look at this asshole. He didn't say anything good about my son.
Well, that's the thing is, as the later run picks go, it's not really as much indicative of their talent level as it is
right.
Maybe they're just they don't have that one category that pops them off, or they didn't have the big game that sort of made them a name, or what I mean? There's just certain things like guys like that's one of Mims's biggest issues with the lack of experience. That's the only reason he fell to 18. If Mims had played just a season and a half more, he would have been a top 10 pick. Almost
that is one thing about Josh Newton is he doesn't lack the experience. Dude had like over 4,000 snaps.
Yeah.
So he's
very versatile. He's very versatile.
I think he might be good. I think he might be good, like a replacement for like a Mike Hilton. You know what I mean? Come up, cover the slot, man. You ain't got to worry so much about trying to cover the outside on the deep routes. I mean, it is what it is. When they draft guys, some guys are better at one thing, some guys are better at another. He clearly can't cover a deep threat wide receiver, and he really struggled. I think it was the Texas game. Like, I mean, they beat his ass.
Yeah, I think it's more of a depth type call, type pick.
Just trying to get to 90.
You know, we want to get more depth. We want to get more young competition in the locker room and really in as many positions as we possibly can, especially the ones we feel are lacking, you know. So obviously you guys have seen the news about Dax Hill. We're probably going to move him to CB, you know. So again, I mean, I think Josh is a good kid. I think he'll fit right in the locker room for the most part. I think it's just a depth call, man. Whether he stays on that roster, you know, when preseason's all said and done or not, I don't know, you know.
I personally, this is something I've been floating out there on Twitter, and some people have given feedback on it. Some people haven't. I think Dax Hill is the future Mike Hilton. I don't mean that in terms of he's going to be Mike Hilton. I mean, he's that future roll and lose defense or the Bengals defense going far. I mean, I know that, you know, they've already committed to putting him in the corner room, but that doesn't mean he's going to be an outside corner. And I think Dax is versatile. And I think with the reps, you got to think Dax right now could back up Mike Hilton. He could back up both safety spots, and you could put him outside a corner. He's about to get a whole lot more reps at corner. So a guy like Josh Newton comes in, and he, you know, to me, he's versatile, just like Dax. He's going to be a guy like Dax who's competing for Turner to be CB2. That's really what this comes down to. We can call it for what it is. You know, these guys that are coming in the room, the guys that are already in the room, Cam Taylor is going to be CB1 now that Awuzie is gone. So DJ Turner, you know, Josh Newton, Dax Hill, there's a few other guys in the room. Those guys are all competing to be CB2. And then guess what? The very next odd man out, the second runner up, he's going to be the guy, and it could very well be Dax because of his versatility, who's the third guy off the bench at safety, who's the second guy off the bench to fill a role for Mike Hilton when he needs breaks. You know what I mean? So Josh, he's coming into, he's looking, he has an opportunity to get a lot of playing time. It's not like there's a big time veteran that's in front of him that's, you know, going to be like, nah, you ain't getting no reps, young guy. So Josh is very much going to be in the mix.
I actually like the seventh round pick more than Josh, but we'll get into that when it's time for the 7th round.
Well, so I think that's about the halfway point. You know, today's episode, you know, we're sponsored by Taylor's travel company, and she, I tell you, you know, if you're planning a vacation or you're planning on booking a vacation, and this year, next year, whenever, Jet Set and Sea Travel, but with Tay, you can go and check out her Facebook page. That's Jet Set and Sea with Taylor. You know, the deals that she finds and comes up with, you know, and the packages that they can put together, she has access to things that regular, you know, patrons don't have access to. And I'll just scroll through her Facebook page there and check out some of the deals that she sees and she posts to try to help people out with. They're unbelievable. I know it looks like we lost Bengal Bob there for a second, but I tell you, you know, if you haven't visited her page over on Facebook, I'll be sometimes if we wouldn't already have our vacation booked for this year, I'll look at it like, man, that is a heck of a trip. Maybe it's a trip to Disney, maybe it's a cruise, maybe you're looking for just hotels. I mean, that's, you know, everybody likes to try to get away here and there, and we all like to try to do it, you know, with especially how today's economy is, the best we can for as cheap as we can, right? I mean, that's the goal in life with a lot of stuff. And she does an unbelievable job of finding deals to be able to, you know, help people out with. And the best part is you don't pay her a dime. You don't, you know, and
in this day and time,
Bob needs a break.
That's good in this day and time.
It is. If you can get a decent trip at a decent price, you know, it's worth it to try to get away. So, you know, make sure you pop over to her Facebook page, you know, Jet Set and Sea Travel with Taylor, and follow the page. Jet Set and Sea. Yep, Jet Set and Sea Travel with Taylor, and check it out. And see what kind of deal. Send her a DM and see what kind of deal and what you're thinking about, and she will help you out. And it's completely free.
Definitely. She's awesome, man. And remember, people, you're buying memories,
So
right, yeah, you go on vacation. Yeah. So, all right. So let's get back to the picks. And I think it is back to me.
Round 6.
And, yep, round 6, pick 194, Tanner McLaughlin. He's tied in from Arizona. And honestly, we talked about Eric All a few minutes ago. Bob, you brought up that the 7th round pick you might like more than Josh Newton. I might like Tanner more than I like Eric All.
I agree with you.
Tanner's 6'5", 245. And, here's a kid who his numbers aren't going to jump out at you and say, wow, this guy was a higher production passing tight end. But he has a lot of experience. And let me tell you something. This guy's effort is unbelievable. Just like with some of the other players we've seen the Bengals have drafted, they definitely have a type, and this guy fits that type. His character, his ability to just play hard, come off the ball, grind. I mean, he's not scared to be in line. He's not scared to be a pass catcher, to go over the middle. I mean, I sort of was blown away with him because to me, he's as balanced of a tight end, aside from Brock Bowers. Really, you could argue he's as balanced as any of them. He just
rivals him, dude.
Doesn't come from a big time offense.
Big time. That's it. That's the only thing missing.
Big time.
He's 6'5", dude. Runs the 40 and 4.6.
245. Yeah. I mean, big dude. He's been honorable mention All Pac-12 player. He has multiple seasons where he played all 12 games. He played at Southern Utah, and before he went to Arizona in the transfer portal. And he was in 23. He was honorable mention All Pac-12's conference. Played in all 13 games with 11 starts. He went 45 catches for 528 yards. He averaged almost 12 yards a catch and 4 touchdowns. He set their school record for most receptions by a tight end with 79, which beat Rob Gronkowski's. So this guy actually has massive upside that's kind of low-key.
Did he take that extra year of eligibility because of COVID?
Because of COVID, he did.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's played a lot of football. I mean, he's coming in ready.
Yeah, and his measurables and stuff, they don't tell you the full story on him. His competitive spirit just jumps off tape at you. And,
yeah, I mean, he's a good dude, man. Speed. But I mean, I wouldn't take him over Eric. And at the end of the day,
I'm not saying
I don't think Tanner's going to make the cut at the end of the day. And if he does, it's only going to be first blocking.
I like Tanner's competitive spirit.
No, I like the kid. Don't get me wrong. Like that to me, that's a guy you drop back in shotgun and put next to Joe. You know what I mean? Like, that's not like the guy I see running, a 25-yard post. I just don't see it.
Well, let's be honest here. Almost none of the Bengals players, tight ends, are going to be doing that. Jasicki might add at the slot. Right. Tanner Hudson, I think, on the roster proved it.
But this kid's tough, man. I mean, there's on the
tough,
tape,
man.
Let me tell you something. This is the type of guy that makes the team because of his effort. This is the type of guy that makes the team.
Dude, and his tape, his ass is getting lit up, and he is completing the catches every time he gets lit up. I mean, like getting lit.
To me, the negatives that come off of him,
he's tough.
His negatives were, in my opinion, he rounds routes a lot. He's not a very polished route runner. He sort of loses a lot of momentum coming in and out of breaks because, he's a bigger guy and he's really still young. So he's sort of underdeveloped.
Sometimes he looks like a baby learning to walk. You know what I mean? Like you can tell he's not a polished athlete like that. He looks like a baby learning to walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of wobbles around a little bit, but
I mean, he doesn't have the ankles to support,
his lower body's thin for sure.
Yeah, he doesn't have the angles to support sharp route running. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you're going to get from guys his size, Yeah.
Honestly, to me, him and Eric All are extremely similar. You could tell, again, the Bengals have a type that they were looking for a tight end. They knew exactly what they're trying to get to fill out the roster. And honestly, it's pretty much him and Eric that they're going to be competing for everything the same. They are. They're competing
without a doubt.
Everything the same.
One of those guys will not make the team.
Probably not. Or one will be on the team and one will be on the practice squad.
Maybe.
Yeah, I can see Tanner being on the practice squad.
Because here's the thing, right? You got Mike Gesicki, who's probably going to be tight end 1. Tanner Hudson, I'm telling you, has proven that he is one of the best pass catching tight ends we have.
He'll be tight end
Drew Sample is our also fullback. Drew Sample lines up and blocks out of the backfield 5 to 10% of the time. So it's which one of these guys is going to be tight end 4 and going to bounce around on the practice squad, unless they really flash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's right where I see Tanner at, man. Is, you know, we're in the shotgun and he's back there lined up next to Joe with an extra, you know, trying to pick up an extra linebacker or double team a defensive end, whatever, you know.
Well, Ray, why don't you take us into the other 6th-round pick, Cedric Johnson.
Cedric Johnson, man. Not a very big guy. I mean, 6'3", 265, right? I mean, when you really think about, I mean, some of the bigger guys in the league that really smash mouth the edge. I mean, 6'3", 265 just doesn't jump out at you, you know. And another guy that has, I think, some arm length issues. But what I'm excited about Cedric is he's very athletic in the same sense that, I mean, this is a guy that basically played linebacker his true freshman year, you know. So he's been moved around. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but he played linebacker. You know what I mean? That's something you don't generally see. You know, I mean, when you look at trench players, I mean, it starts at the peewee level. That kid just goes straight into high school level and straight into college level. Like he might move from a guard to a tackle to a DT or DE. But at the end of the day, I mean, you rarely see guys start off in the trenches, go to outside linebacker, I think he played 10 games, recorded 7 solo tackles, 3 sacks. And as a true freshman, you know, so we're talking a kid, you know what I mean, playing against possible seniors, you know, so I thought that was pretty good, man. And then, I mean, when you look through Cedric's college, you know, I mean, 2021, they moved him to defensive end. He recorded 33 tackles, 6.5 sacks. That was through 11 games. 2022, he recorded 32 tackles, 4 sacks. That was through 11 games. And then his senior year, now keep in mind, they went through 3 different defensive coordinators through 21, 22, and 23. So every year they had a different defensive coordinator, right? So by the time he hit his senior year, so by the time he hits his senior year, they basically make him team captain. He records 40 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and that was played all through 12 games. I thought I had another little comment here. I
wonder how many tackles for a loss he had. You ain't got that.
I think it was right? I think it was like 8.5 last year. I think 8.5. I think is what it was at out of those 40 tackles. Maybe I think it was just 8. But again, I mean, you know, he helped lead them to win the Peach Bowl, which was the first time in their program history.
The Peach Bowl.
You know? I mean, it's the Peach Bowl, right? First
it's
time
better than the Macaroni Bowl.
I mean, it's the first time in their program history that they were able to do that, you know, and to do that with 3 different defensive coordinators, you know, I mean, that your junior year's off and your senior year, I mean, that speaks a lot, you know. So, I mean, the guy's, he's clearly a leader, you know, and again, bringing more competition to the defensive edge, you know. I mean, definitely could be a nice break for Sam, you know, or Trey for that matter, you know, and us Bengals fans be confident that Cedric's going to close that edge or he's going to rush the passer like we need him to do.
Right,
you know?
Because there's clearly a big difference when Trey and Sam's not on the field, you know. That's next to no pass rush. That's why hopefully Miles Murphy is takes a big step this year.
Well, honestly, I look at him a lot like I look at Tanner and Josh Newton and Eric and McKinley Jackson. They're guys that they brought in to raise the floor of the room. Because the Bengals have such a strong roster at its core, you need guys to come in to not only add depth, but once you get some depth,
but still push those guys.
Once they've drafted defense the past few years, you want guys that come in and they're adding depth, but they're also bringing the floor of the room up to, like you said, push those guys in a different direction. Cedric's the same way. Do I think he's going to come in and day one be better than probably Murphy or Joseph Asai, who are the guys that are relieving Sam and them? No, he's probably not going to be. But is his upside bigger than maybe, a Joseph Asai who's already been in the league 3 years now, who maybe we've seen what we've already seen? You don't know. But you bring guys like this in because they're going to push them and they're going to take them and say, hey, you got to keep getting better, or these guys that are coming through the pipeline are going to jump you in the roster and the lineup.
But I mean? they all need a rookie to carry their helmet and pads from practice. So
that's true.
I mean, I like the kid. I think he's got a great attitude, man. I'm glad to see him a Bengal. I mean, again, it's going to come down, dude. It's going to come down to the effort, and who's outperforming who, and that's going to win the job. So
right, like Reggie said, though, raise the level of the floor up
without a doubt, man. But some of these kids are coming in really hungry. They're coming in really hungry, and that
veterans always need young guys to push them.
Yeah, well, but guess what? Is going to be there for sure. With Cedric.
But guess who's very hungry? Miles Murphy. Guess who's very hungry?
Right.
Joseph Asai. And that's the thing is, the reason why the second-year jump is so big for pros is because your first year, you spend so much time almost an awestruck. These guys are looking around like, damn, these are grown men. I've been maybe the big fish in my pond, but you come in and you're like, oh, well, Joseph Asai hasn't played very much. I should be able to come in and jump him in the roster. Then you get to camp and you see he's a grown fucking man. And you got to go out and compete.
You're more like fucking spinner bait.
Dude who's been in the league for 3 years and he's been trying to crack the roster and he's refined his technique that much more. So that's why first round picks are so coveted, because those are the guys that might be developed just enough to start getting on the field right away. And then the rare players can be starters. But guys like Cedric,
I don't disagree with that, but we've seen plenty of first round. We've seen plenty of first round picks just absolutely bust in the National Football League.
Oh, 100%.
Second,
because
third,
that's how hard it is.
Fifth round picks, man, end up being MVPs of the league, and I mean it's crazy how it works, man. It's absolutely crazy.
But again, that's not the norm, though. That's not the norm.
No, it's not the norm.
That's also not their first year.
This ain't a shot at Osaya or nothing like that, man, or Miles Murphy for that matter. But it comes down to skill level and talent. You know what I mean? And
100%.
How much more God-given talent than do you have over the next guy? It might take you 4 years to master that, dude, and I'm mastering it in 1 year.
Right.
So it's one of those things, man. Like, the kid's got a great attitude. Like, I don't know if he's going to make the cut, but I'm gonna wish him the best of luck.
Well, speaking of talent,
hopefully he means a multi-Pro Bowler. Hopefully he ends up being a multi-Pro Bowler. That's what you want.
Speaking of talent, I'm gonna get into round 7 pick. I'm not gonna butcher his first name.
Dejan.
I actually like him more than Josh Newton. He's more raw. Obviously, he doesn't have the experience and played the amount of games that Josh Newton's played. But he's got great size. He's got length. He's got all the measurables it takes to be a shutdown corner if he's developed the right way, which Lou Anarumo originally was a cornerbacks coach. So I kind of think this is going to be that diamond in the rough that, has the potential. I mean, he has everything it takes. He can play man. He can play in the slot, cover the slot receiver. He's got great handball skills. This kid has a lot of potential. He's just raw. He just needs the time and the development. And he could be a shutdown DB one day. I mean, he has that type of, attributes to him. I think better than Josh Newton. I think this is one of those value picks that,
I absolutely 100% agree with you, dude, on that. I mean, I would have personally picked him over Josh, looking at the tape, looking at the person, looking at the attitude, the character, all that shit, like I would have taken this guy over Josh. And the phone call between Zach and him, because I'm pretty sure he's the one that told Zach he loves him. And Zach says, I love you too. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not. I'm pretty sure
I think
this
it
guy.
was him.
And the biggest difference is a familiar face is going to be there, right there. And that's the guy we were just talking about, Cedric.
Yep.
So, a familiar face goes a long way in a new place, and
it's going to help them a lot.
They both might be able to push each other, not necessarily to take positions away, but be on that roster. You know what I mean? So I like the pick, man. I like the kid. He's got a great attitude, man. He's ready to bring it. He's ready to work,
Yeah, I mean, he's raw, but he's got a lot of potential.
Again, the Bengals have a type. And you can tell, just like with the Eric All and Tanner pick, Dejon and Josh Newton, they knew exactly what they were looking to get when they drafted corners in this draft. They're both versatile guys who can play outside or inside. They're both guys that have some experience. And again, they're both guys that are going to come in and they're going to be competing for CB3 and 4. Possibly 2. I mean, I don't think DJ Turner's enough of a world beater where like none of these guys have the potential to jump him.
To take his job, right?
Added to the mix, it's a different dynamic. But still, I mean, these guys are going to get playing time a lot in preseason, and they're going to get playing. Whoever that rises to the top are going to end up getting playing time throughout the year. Probably a lot more we think.
You know what I love is the going theme here is a lot of these guys are very physical, strong, strong-minded men. We're in the toughest division of football. I don't give a rat's ass what anybody says. AFC North's the toughest division of football, and it shows when the Bengals draft. We're drafting physical players because you got to be. You got to put on that extra chin strap in this division.
Yeah, it's like home away from home. The Bengals have a welcome attitude, very much so. And and that's going to be key for a lot of these young guys coming in. Is you got to learn the culture, you got to learn the playbook, and you got to learn to play hard. And if you can do all 3 of those things, then you still got to bust your ass to try to make the roster because the roster is already talented.
Right. It's already so good. Like none of this is a bad problem to have, No,
they definitely, again, once they picked a offensive tackle and got a couple to defense tackle, once they drafted Mims and Chris Jenkins, I think the board was open for them. They were going to draft.
It was gravy train.
They felt it was
gravy.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Cincinnati overall, man, I mean, it's like we're not scouting no-name, schools here, boys. I mean,
right.
You got Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Texas A&M, Iowa, Ole Miss. Like these aren't, you know what I mean? These are universities that produce NFL players, So it's a great draft, man.
Well,
we got one more, right? Yeah.
I'll take us into the last pick of the 2024 draft. And I'm going to say, I'm going to go ahead and call this right now. If I had to make one prediction for this draft, guys, I love predictions. Aside from Mims and, Jermaine Burton, Chris Jenkins, like there's really 2 or 3 guys that are probably going to get some of the most play time because they're going to be the most expected. But really of all their draft picks, this guy might end up being the best player in our entire draft. First off, this is the Bengals' future center. For those of you out there watching this right now, when Ted Karras is done, this guy is going to be the Bengals center, hopefully for years to come. 6'4", 300 pounds. At the senior week, senior practice, he only weighed 287, very light. He looks small on tape. And I'm telling you, that's the reason why he's a 7th round pick, because when they put the tape on, you see him. And even though he's, 6'4", 300 pounds, he just looks smaller. It's weird. But let me tell you something about Matt Lee. This guy is the definition of experience and consistency. And because he has the experience he has, this dude might have the most technique of any lineman in this draft on either side of the ball. So let me read this to you. He played at UCF, right, before his transfer. Redshirted and played 4 games as a reserve. In 2020, he was a first-team All-American Athletic Conference, started all 10 games as center. In 21, started all 12 games as center. In 22, second team All-American Athletic Conference, started all 14 games at center. 2023, second team All-ACC, started all 12 games. This dude played, let's see here, 22, 36. This dude played almost 50 games in college, started every single game, and was two-time all-conference for his division, even though he played a smaller school. When you put the tape on him, this dude, his hand placement is damn near perfect. His pass protection as a center is as good as you can find on tape in this.
It all looks textbook.
This dude is like a prototypical, like when you look at a guy and you say that guy has mastered his craft. This dude, obviously, they're young, so they have room to grow physically and everything. I think he is, how old was he? I'm not sure how old he is. He played 5 years of college ball. 24.
25.
This dude is the perfect guy to come in and sit under Ted Karras for 2 years, because he's going to learn how to be a pro. He's going to learn how to get bigger and stronger, all those basic things. But this dude's technician is unbelievable. I mean, I put the tape on, and you're like, if he didn't noticeably on tape look like a smaller lineman, this dude is a top 15 pick. And that's the difference in him being round 7 and being first rounder. For those of you out there that haven't watched anything or heard anything about this guy, he played at University of Miami in Florida. Go watch Matt Lee tape. I don't think last year in 23, I don't know if he lost a single rep in games. Like he literally obviously did, because that's how football works. But I mean, it's hard to put the tape on and find a rep where he gets an X or doesn't do his job or doesn't win the rep. I mean, the dude handles nose tackles and tackles like, I mean, he in pass protection. He is a massive technician, dude.
Another strong ass dude.
He's the future center of the Cincinnati Bengals. Matt Lee, I'm telling you, remember this name, because of any guy in this draft, this dude is probably the most pro ready. He's probably has some of the best upside because of his experience in terms of his chance of hitting on a pick. He's one of those guys that 5 years from now is a Pro Bowler. And you're like, well, Matt Lee was a 7th round pick.
The 3rd value pick of this draft, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The 3rd value pick of this draft. Like, wow, I can't believe we got a guy this caliber in the 7th round.
Yeah, he would have been the guy that if he didn't get drafted, every team was trying to get him as an undrafted free agent. But he just, like I said on tape, he doesn't look that big. But dude, you watch the play happen, and you're just like, well, he won that rep. And then the next, you're like, well, he won that rep. Well, he won that rep. Well, he won that rep.
Unfortunately, Pollock has yet to prove that he can develop a lineman for us. So
I know.
He's got some tools for his box this year. Let's, come on, man. If not,
this guy's going to
get him out of here.
So right now, if you look at our starting 5 offensive linemen, Cody Ford is the swing interior guy. So when someone goes down inside at guard, Cody Ford comes in.
Cody.
You have a backup center, which is I don't know why I can't think of his name right this second. And then your swing tackle is going to be Amarius Mims. It's been Jackson Carman and Isaiah Prince, but Mims is going to be the swing tackle behind Brown. This kid is going to come in, and I'm telling you, if a guard goes down, if a guard goes down, Matt Lee is going to be the guy. It may not be right away, but as the season goes on, they're going to see in camp, like, this dude just wins reps. And when a guy just wins, and to me, that's what jumped off about Mims was, despite Mims being inexperienced, he wins a lot of reps, dude.
And
at the end of the day,
Cincinnati
that's what you got to do
with these motherfuckers. It's exciting,
dude. It is, and I couldn't agree with you more, man. I kind of feel like Frank at this point, man, is.
Come on, man.
I mean, it's time to put up or put out, bro. I mean, you talk about fucking creating these glass eaters, bro. Like, here you go, dude. I mean, let's see what you can do.
I don't know, man. I'm depressed because this has all been exciting, everything with the draft. And, man, it is a great time to be a Bengals fan, period. Like, the level of talent of Joe Burrow, which unfortunately every damn video you see is if Burrow can stay healthy, I think of it, if he can have some luck go his way, this is going to be a great season. I think it's going to be historic season offensively, especially if they can bring guys like Jermaine Burton into the mix with all the talent that he's got. I'm just, dude, who the fuck you going to cover? Who you going to cover?
Yeah. I honestly, dude, I'm over the moon with how well the draft went. You know, drafting 5 trench players and 10 picks. I mean, what is something that if you go back and listen to season 1 that I said and we said so much, dude, I just want to break the narrative that you can protect Joe Burrow. And the past 3 years, and I could talk about this ad nauseum, you're talking about bringing in 4 starting, well, 5 you're 5 starting offensive linemen they've brought in free agency. You've drafted 3 players, drafted 5 more players this year. You know, they've attacked free agency with guys like, first it was Karras and Kappa and what's his face from Dallas. I don't know why his name splits
Collins.
Yeah,
Collins.
Lyle Collins. And then you come back next year and you go and you get Orlando Brown Jr. to anchor the left side. And then this year you go because you lose Jonah and you upgrade and get Trent Brown. And then along the way you drafted Volson. You know, you've drafted 5 more guys to come into the trenches, 2 of those being offensive linemen.
They can take that narrative and shove it because that shouldn't even be talked about this year. The Bengals have done everything in their power to fix the situation to keep Joe Burrow protected. So
yeah, I mean,
and that's what, like you said, Frank Pollock.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
this
going to be on Frank Pollock's head.
There's nothing else Duke at the front office anybody else can do. You know, I mean, we have literally spent the bank at this point, you know, trying to cover our 2 biggest flaws, which was protect our quarterback and get after their quarterback.
And get pass rush, right?
And you can see it from the free agency all the way through the draft. Like, did we sprinkle a couple of guys in there for Joe to throw the ball to? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mean, it's been nonstop. Get the quarterback, protect our quarterback, you know, and it's that mentality.
And if you can do that, you'll win a bunch of games.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're not here, you know, to do anything other than win championships. That's what we're building for. You know, like Joe said on the Jason Kelsey and Travis podcast, you know, when Jason asked him about the Chiefs, we're built to beat that team. You know what I mean? And obviously Joe looked over at Travis and gave a little smile, but Joe absolutely meant that shit. We are built to beat teams like that. So, I mean, moving forward into this season, man, I mean, anybody that has to play any AFC North team, I'm going to wish them luck. But to beat us, you better fucking bring it, man. You better bring it.
Yeah, and, you know, we've discussed it and talked about it quite a bit ad nauseum, you know, especially in the first season. This season's going to be no different. You know, we're going to talk about it quite a bit. And the reality is, you know, this team has built and continues to build for the future to win multiple Super Bowls, plural, to win Super Bowls. To
be a dynasty.
And, you know, there's a real conversation that could be had to be said that this team is built more to beat the high end of the league and then the AFC, like in the Chiefs and the Bills, than it is to really beat our division. But the reality is, we can still win our division. We won it back-to-back years. We can still win the AFC and be the 1 seed. We can win Super Bowls. And that's I did a whole thread on Twitter about the T. Higgins situation and how I think so many people are overcomplicating the situation. The Bengals have an elite quarterback who's paid accordingly, and we have an elite top 5 receiver who's about to get paid accordingly. You had to franchise tag T. Higgins because at every position we have to get younger and cheaper. And the reality of the situation is, guess what? The draft's over. Rookie mini camps in 2 weeks, and the 28th and 29th, or 28th through the 30th is on the field activities. And T's playing for us. He's already said he's going to play for us. The Bengals want T to play. He's under contract. Same thing with Trey Hendrickson. All the drama that people want to create that, Trey wants to be traded, T, blah, blah. T's playing. We're getting another.
Neither one of them's walking away from their money.
And yes, Boyd's gone, but guess what? There's still a chance Boyd can still end up a Bengal in camp. And if he doesn't, well, guess what? Trent Irwin's
I'd love to see him retire a Bengal.
You know what I mean? Dustin on Facebook said Burton could be offensive rookie of the year if he hits the ground running. I mean, you got to think if he comes in and can beat out.
That's what I was talking about earlier, man. If you see him early in the season, there's a damn good chance he could be Offensive Rookie of the Year. Damn good chance.
Said if Burrow, I'm assuming you're talking about Burrow gets injured, his reputation could turn to someone.
Come on, don't put that out there. Come on.
And that's, I think, the biggest fear that, that's one of the things that I think a lot of national media, bring up quite a bit.
Right.
Or start to bring up.
Every video. I think Shiesty's breaking records this year.
So, and here's the thing, Joe really got to sit back last year and really take a lot of shit in. You know what I mean? Like a lot of shit. He made notes, I'm sure, throughout every single game throughout the season at that point. So I think he's watched enough tape. I think he's going to put himself in a position where he doesn't put himself in a compromising physical. So I don't know if you guys have been watching some of his tape here recently. He's been working on this kind of unorthodox throw, which is, your back leg is kind of, instead of it, being a right-handed quarterback, you want to point that foot, Instead, this foot is back and pointed. His hips are open, and he's not really throwing a cross body to his left. Yeah, he's throwing off, to his right still, but it's unorthodox. It's almost like a cross body throw, even though it's not a cross body throw. And I think he's working on passes like that keep him out of the position where I have to step up into this pocket, because 9 times out of 10, if a quarterback steps up into the pocket, where you want to live at is in the pocket. But if you step up and it immediately closes on you, there's where you see leg injuries. There's where you see wrist and hand injuries, because they're trying to get rid of the ball and hit the helmet. So I think Joe's going to try his best to stay out of those, because at the end of the day, that type of throw to me is a throw you would make on the run, so either he's planning on running and throwing a lot, or he's just planning on getting rid of that ball as fast as he can, and
honestly,
adding Burton to that list, dude. I mean, that's
honestly, dude,
gonna be great.
I truly believe we could put a bunch of trash cans on RC cars and Burrow could still be an elite passer in the NFL. Like, I think that, honestly, even though receiver the market has gone tremendously up, one of the reasons why the Bengals franchise T is because, guess what? The elite quarterbacks win games and make plays and produce stats with not anybody at receiver, but you could argue this year with the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes had his worst set of weapons of any year in his career, and they won a Super Bowl. The reality is, last year, Zach and Duke and Lou and them, they learned how to win games without Burrow, without putting the world on Joe's shoulders. We went positive last year while finishing last in our division and still almost made the playoffs
record, right?
With Burrow missing 8 games, however many it was. This team is so good and built so well. And honestly,
I think they learned to have a little more.
Joseph Wilson, Trey was only employed by Trey to get longer time span and thing. And that's 100% right. But the reason why the Bengals didn't give him years, the reason why they're not going to give T years, is because we want to get younger and cheaper at every position aside from quarterback.
You can't pay everybody. You just can't pay everybody.
It's not even pay everybody. It's you don't need to pay receivers anymore. So many young guys. Look how many young good receivers are in this draft. That's why T didn't get traded. You know what I'm saying?
That's why Tyler's still sitting.
It's really reality, dude. I'm not just throwing it out there. It's a very real possibility, and it is. It'd be heartbreaking, but
again, man, I think, guys, if there was, you look at the past couple of years, we've had some moving parts and pieces. Overall, this is the season. You know what I mean? When you look at everything that we've gotten done in the past 3 years, like, this would be the season we make that Super Bowl run. With the roster we have right now, and the free agency and the draft moves that Cincinnati just made that were pretty, again, not common. Dude, I mean, this is the year. They asked JJ. I know you guys don't want to hear this, but they asked, McCarthy, man, when he got drafted to Minnesota, what's the biggest difference between him and Kirk Cousins? And McCarthy responded, where he wears gold chains, I wear championship rings. So That's the same mentality we have in Cincinnati. That's the same mentality Joe Burrow has, Jamar Chase has, all these guys coming from Michigan, from, that we have on our roster now, the guys from, this is it. We've built a Super Bowl roster. It's the matter of staying healthy throughout the season.
Lou is going to cook.
And getting to those months where we shine the best,
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Upgrading the hybrid defense with the draft. Lou's going to cook. Yeah. Every defensive player they drafted was versatile. Both corners can play inside and outside. Both the D tackles have enough explosiveness that you can move them anywhere from 0 to 3-eye.
We really needed a draft like this to get some more physical guys in there because, our division got a little more tougher when Derrick Henry went to the Ravens. Let's fucking be honest about it. Smash mouth football. You better believe they're going to try to run him down everybody's throats. I don't know what the status of Nick Chubb is, but we really needed to address the middle of the defense. And
this is talking shit, but I'm not worried about Derrick Henry, dude. Derrick Henry's a running back over 30 who I understand that he's King Henry and he's a tough runner. And guess what? We face that year round. What running game I'm more worried about? The Browns, and
Chubb,
the Ravens with Lamar Jackson running the ball and Dustin Combs. Yeah, exactly. Everybody's like making this big deal. The Bengals have handled Derrick Henry so well.
Yeah. At the end of the deal,
still tough in goal-to-go situations, though.
Dude, I'm not going to put him down, but don't forget we played them in the playoffs, boys. What Derrick Henry rushed for? 42.
He also got the better of us last season too.
I think he had 42 yards in that game. Like, come on,
he got the best of us last season when we played him. I'm just saying our shit is physical in the AFC North, so we needed to address the center of the defense, and I feel we did that in this draft.
Yeah, honestly, I
could be right.
Joseph said Henry went to Ratbirds, retire like all big, and honestly, he probably is going to retire in a couple years.
Maybe after this season.
I think running backs, man, it's a physical position, and you just
not with Jenkins.
You get to around 33, 34 years old, man, and it's hard to keep running the ball after that age.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is, many hits at that point,
the Bengals attacked what they needed to do in free agency, and you essentially replaced DJ Reader. You didn't replace him, but you sort of played money ball, and you got someone who can come in. Honestly, Rankins is probably a better pass rusher than DJ Reader, but he's not a 2-gap run stopper, which, again,
no, he's not.
Is not good for the division.
That's why you drafted a nose tackle.
You get a right tackle, you fill all of your holes. And then you go out in the draft and you get guys that are going to come in and bring the floor up and raise the ceiling with guys like Mims. And guess what? Now it's time to get into camp and, start getting this shit down.
Let's start this.
The guys that have been there are the point where they're mastering this system and
cannot wait to start this Super Bowl season.
Got to start fast. That's the biggest thing this year is they got to start fast.
Man.
Hey, we got that last place schedule too. We got that last place schedule too.
We were talking about it before, Reg. Man, that's one of our biggest flaws. That's one of our biggest flaws, man. Our kids are used to coming out and shitting on other teams. Going up 21 points. Relatively quick, not looking back, keeping the foot on the throat, like that's the mentality that our offense needs to adhere and play as, is every time we touch the ball, we are scoring. Regardless if it's a touchdown or a field goal, every single time we touch the ball, we're scoring,
Yeah. Yeah. Joe on Facebook said Bell's a great come downfield run stopper. He's as good as anybody in the league at it, especially
Bell is, man.
He's not playing too deep. Dustin said,
and his locker room presence. You know what I mean? That was just as big as of a loss as anything was losing guys like him in the locker room. Not having Bell in the locker room last year, it didn't help.
Yep.
Camp's what separates them all for sure.
Yeah. There's gonna be a game on the schedule, which I can't wait for it to come out, that the Bengal Brothers, obviously, we're going to try to get down there to the stadium. In my mind, obviously preseason, looking at the rosters, when Philadelphia comes to town, that's going to be a test for the Bengals to see how they compete against the best in the NFC, because when you look at rosters, like the Eagles don't even fit in the NFC because the NFC is such shit. You know what I mean? Like,
we sure know the Cowboys aren't the best in the NFC.
I mean, when you look at their roster, though, it's a roster right out of the AFC for the most part because of the talent wall to wall. You know what I mean? So when Philly comes to town, you know, that's going to be the test for our wide receiver core. You know what I mean? Because of their depth at corner and safety.
Yeah,
it's going to be a great fucking test, man.
There's a bunch of good games. I am excited to get down to camp, hopefully. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that's the goal, is for us to try to get down there and take some footage, and you know.
But all in all,
content.
I'm really happy with the draft. I mean, I'd give us a B+, A-. You know,
for me, the biggest shock was Trey coming back out, even though he just signed a deal and saying he wanted more money in years.
That's his agent realizing I screwed up.
Yeah.
That's all in his agent.
His agent talking.
Agent's an idiot.
Talking, you know.
Yeah, but what you were just starting to say, Bob. I mean, we're obviously to start wrapping this up. Honestly, I would have before the last pick. Before the last pick of Matt Lee, I would have given the Bengals a B+, honestly. And then I think after they picked him, a guy who has 50 starts to come in and he's the future interior guy, I give him an A-. And I know a lot of people haven't graded him out that well because of Mims. They feel like is, you know, kind of a risk, but Mims could be an all-pro player in a few years. I mean, 50% of these players are busts anyways. So, you know, you got a guy who literally is a genetic freak. And
look how many first-round picks. The whole draft is a
to me, the Bengals had one of the best drafts in the league because they were able to fill what they needed to add depth, and then they went out and got the best guys that they were looking for, that they had a type for. Hey, we're looking for this style of guy, and they
got their type,
and they pulled them. Yeah, exactly. You know.
Yeah. Well,
so I think real quick, I think my biggest shock of the offseason was T. Higgins requesting a trade. I think that was probably the biggest shock to the team for the most part. I mean, because you see all this shit on social media: Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins hanging out, bullshitting like they're brothers. And then I know where T. Higgins is requesting a trade, you know. So that was probably the biggest
honestly,
for sure. Like, I don't think he's going to be here after this season, dude. I think
he's definitely
T. Higgins.
He wants too much money, man. Yeah. He wants too much money for number 2.
But hey, follow, like, you know,
right,
share,
on YouTube,
tweet,
Facebook,
you know,
Twitch. Yeah, I think it was a shock to me, to be honest. But I'm not surprised.
Trey's honestly, more of a shock to me.
T deserves his money. He deserves the contract. He deserves to have the right to go out and find it. And this year, the Bengals did what was best for us. And guess what? The Bengals and our fans, we deserve to do what's best for us in the long run.
Right.
And that was keeping T to play with Joe and Chase another year in this window.
Shit, I wouldn't be pissed if they franchise tagged him a second time next year.
That would be doing him dirty. This year, I don't think they did him dirty.
No.
But
it's all about championships.
That would be doing him dirty. But make sure you shoot over to YouTube if you're watching this on Facebook and Twitch, and like and subscribe to the YouTube page. That's where we're really trying to
very much appreciate it.
And like I said, during camp, we're planning on during on the field activities going down there. We're going to have an episode then. That's May 28th through the 30th. So make sure you keep an eye out.
Right around the corner.
Subscribe on YouTube. You'll be able to see a notification that, hey, we're going to be going live. You know what I mean?
Around the corner. It's exciting.
Between now and then, we're going to get the Bengal Brothers Facebook page up. Right now, we're actually on my Facebook profile and on my Twitch. But
don't worry.
And MySpace.
We're going to be on MySpace.
We'll get it together.
But we appreciate everyone who tuned in last week and tuned in this week, so. And I'm already excited for camp at the end of the month to do another episode. Yeah. And remember, September 3rd, Tuesday, September 3rd at 8:30 p.m.
Episode 1, baby, let's go.
Of season 2, episode 1 of season 2, every Tuesday night at 8:30.
The second season.
So just how we've had everybody comment, we appreciate all the guys out there commenting and watching.
Everybody,
and,
thanks.
I think
Definitely.
just a minute ago we kind of had dropped off, but we had, I think, across all 3 platforms there was like 26 people watching. So we really
holy shit, man!
26 people.
What?
But yeah, starting September 3rd, Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. every week throughout the season 2, we'll be live every Tuesday night with a live show. So come hang out and bullshit with us.
Very much appreciated. Yeah.
So
definitely thank you to all you.
Can't wait to start the Toxic Talk. Cannot wait to start the Toxic Talk of all those shit talking fans. It's gonna be a good time.
I know that's going to be one of the new segments. I think it's going to be a hit for us. We'll get some YouTube shorts out of it. And
big time.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Yep,
well, we appreciate all of you very, very much. So
yeah, as usual. Who Day,
guys.
Brothers. Thanks for coming through. Have a good night.